Here are 5 things to avoid buying as a beginner filmmaker. Hey filmmakers, Christian Fox here with another video for you. Today, I want to talk about the top 5 pieces of filmmaking gear to avoid if you are a beginner filmmaker just starting out. And by beginner, I mean someone who is really passionate about film, but you're doing more content creation and things like personal short films. Basically, you're doing film work, but you're really not getting paid for it yet. I also want to say upfront that I am not sponsored by any of the companies that make the products that I'm discussing. Everything is my own opinion. One day I hope to be sponsored by some of these companies, and when I am, I'll definitely let you know. But for now, I am not sponsored at all. As always, when it comes to the products I'm discussing, do some research because there might be situations where I'm saying, hey, don't buy this thing as a beginner, but you might be like, well, I'm actually in a situation where I need to use the thing that you said not to buy. So always do research and see what works for you, because as I always say, what works for me doesn't necessarily always work for you. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Gimbal. Gimbals are obviously great at stabilizing footage, whether you're using cameras or phones, but the reality is, as a beginner filmmaker, you won't really need one because having a static shot by using something like a tripod will be enough to do what you need to do. And yes, sometimes it is cool to have cool movement or extra motion using a gimbal, but generally speaking, you really won't need that, and having that extra motion isn't necessarily critical. So for now, I would say save your money and spend that $500 elsewhere. The slider. Like gimbals, sliders are great for spicing up footage and adding movement to static shots. While cool looking, slider shots are not essential and can often be replicated with just a little bit of ingenuity. I just did a video about why I regretted buying my iFootage Shark Nano slider. While it is an exceptional piece of gear, I found that I wasn't using it enough to justify the $1,000 plus price tag. Although I will admit that I've been using it a lot more, and some slider footage might make its way into this video. Drones. Let's be real for a second. Drones are freaking cool, and they produce some of the best footage that I have ever seen. I love videos with drones, and I love videos about drones. If Peter Lindgren releases a new video where he's reviewing a top-of-the-line drone, I'm watching it. But as much as I love the idea of drones, as much as I really want to have one for myself, they're really only useful if you're trying to do overhead shots that are outside. So if you're not really doing that kind of content, then you don't need a drone. So I would say if you're just starting out, chances are you're really not doing that type of content, then don't buy a drone. As much as you can, resist the urge and save that money for something else. A smoke or fog machine. The next thing to avoid buying are smoke and fog machines. Granted, smoke and fog machines can be very useful and they can really help you achieve that cinematic look that everybody wants. But the reality is there aren't going to be that many situations where you're going to need to use it. I purchased one for my short film I did for film school and thought this is going to be perfect. It's going to give me the cinematic look. I'm going to have the lights, I'm going to have the smoke and create the vibe that I want. But the reality was I had such a small crew and such little time to do it that it didn't really make sense for me to actually whip it out. I had something like 5 or 6 days, and those were Saturdays and Sundays on the weekend, and only for 5 or 6 hours, maybe the whole day if I was lucky. So I was kind of like, you know what? By the time we actually set this bad boy up and get it to look the way we want it to look, we're not going to have time to actually shoot what we want to shoot. Granted, I didn't spend a lot of money on it. My Ulanzi one is around like $150 as of right now on Amazon, but it really just wasn't something that I needed. An FX3 or equivalent camera. This one's going to sound wild, but hear me out. If you're just starting out in your whole filmmaking journey, then do not buy a Sony FX3 or equivalent camera. Now don't get me wrong, the Sony FX3 is a beast, and I desperately want one. But with where I am right now, in that I'm not making any money off of my content, I can't justify $5,000 for that camera. Okay, so I've basically just said don't buy any of the cool fun things that everybody wants, including me, so what should you buy instead? Well, take that money that you potentially saved from not buying all the stuff I just mentioned and use it for what I consider to be filmmaking essentials. Things like microphones such as the Rode Wireless Go 3, a good camera tripod such as my iFootage tripod that I use every single day, a good camera monitor such as my OC monitor, which I also use every single day, and of course a good camera like this Sony a7 IV, or if you want something a little bit more budget friendly, the Sony EV10 II. But what about you? What are some of the pieces of film gear that you desperately want but you just can't possibly justify? Let me know in the comments below. And if software is more your thing, check out my more recent video on DaVinci Resolve. And with that, happy creating.